Okay, welcome back to another video from Better Developer Docs, guys. In this video, we're going to be looking at CMS basics and the left-hand menu inside of the CMS, WordPress CMS. We're still in our beginner level tour of WordPress in our overall course of WordPress 101 and customization. So let's go and have a look at CMS basics. So in the previous videos, we covered how you would log in to your website. So you would be going to WP admin a la this pattern here, and you'd be logging in. And then once you're logged in, you would be shown a page like this, which is the main dashboard in WordPress software. This area is only accessible to people who have a login, so the public cannot view this particular page unless they have specifically logged in with correct user information. And actually, while we're on that topic, the user information is accessible here, but we're going to cover that later. In this video, I want to show you this particular left-hand menu and maybe a few other things, but mainly this menu here is the main sort of location for finding any functionality or any task that you need to do in the WordPress CMS can be done from this menu. So let's go through it, and I'll just give you a sort of high-level view. The most common thing that you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating posts. So that's one area to think about. The next thing would be probably pages. Oftentimes we are in here editing the actual aesthetic of the site via the themes. So that's in the appearance tab. There's plugins. You'll be in here all the time, adding new plugins or removing old plugins. As I mentioned, user management can be done from here. You've got various functionalities under tools and settings, and then you've got various plugins will have their own sub item here in this list where you can do specific functionality for that specific plugin. So let's go back up to the dashboard, and on this particular page, I never really do anything on this page, to be honest. It's just like a nice little place in order to sort of see some of the high level things that stats for your site. But yeah, you don't really need to be in here very often, but do take a look around and see what is going on there. There might be some useful things for you to check out. Most of the time, or maybe not most of the time, but let's say once a month, you're gonna want to be in the updates area of the dashboard, and you're gonna want to just do a few things. This page is where you would manage your WordPress software. So you'd be upgrading and downgrading in some cases, but usually you're upgrading. And so that's where you can do this. It's also a place where you can update or downgrade any plugins that you have and any themes that you have. So every now and then, WordPress will need to update its code, and it does this for various reasons. Sometimes it's adding new functionality or features. Sometimes it's patching security holes that it's found. And this is the same for any plugins that you use or any themes that you use. So we're going to cover themes in more detail and plugins in more detail as we go through the course. But as a general rule of thumb, themes control the aesthetic of your site. So a theme is the thing that's controlling, the color of this font, the color of the background, the color of links, what happens when you hover over a link, the style with which these things are presented, the colors. the fact that it hovers like this when you, or sorry, it expands a little bit when you hover. All the aesthetic of your site is controlled by the theme. So if you're ever thinking about editing or changing any of the style in your site, that's where you're going to be wanting to focus your efforts. But yeah, we'll cover that in a later video. Plugins, on the other hand, are more about functionality than aesthetic, although there is a bit of crossover there sometimes. Most of the time, plugins are about adding functionality to your website. So for example, just here on the left, I've got an SEO plugin, which allows me to do specific SEO tasks in relation to my blog. And that is not standard or out of the box in WordPress, although it is very commonly used, plugin. There's another plugin here which does security functionality, so we're blocking nefarious bots and users from attacking our site with that. There's this other plugin which I use to sort of basically do site speed. There's a lot of improvements you can get there. So yeah, that's more or less what a plugin is. But yeah, if you are updating any of these, this is a convenient place to do it from. There's other areas as well, which we'll cover, but yeah, this is a nice place to start. Yeah, there's your updates. You should be doing updates probably every month, like just checking to see if there's new versions in sort of stock, so to speak, or ready to be updated to, is a better way to say that. So check that every month. You do need to be a little bit careful with updating plugins, themes, and software. You want to make sure that you have a backup done before you do that. That's just a note. But yeah, for now, let's carry on and look at posts. So this is where you would create a new post. This is where you would edit an old post. So if you wanted to add a new one, you've got two ways. You can add a new from here by clicking that. You can add new here as well by clicking this. And this is going to take you through to a brand new page or post, sorry, where you can start to add blocks. So a block is basically a piece of HTML. So for example, I'm just going to browse all. If I wanted to add a particular kind of feature to my page, I could do that with a block. Let's just say that I wanted to add a media and text. So I could add this, and so it's going to let me, so the block encompasses this image and then this text over here. And let's see if I can edit it. Here we go. And so, you can add different blocks here. So a block could also just be something as simple as a heading. Maybe you want an H2 heading. And then, in this way, we can use blocks to start to build our page out, or our post rather. But yeah, this is the place that you would come in order to do anything related to adding a new post. I am going to actually get out of here. I don't want to save that. I'm just going to say leave. And so I just wanted to show you the add new button. This other area here is where you would filter or search for any of your previous posts. So this is a list of your previous posts here. You can see that we've got 9 pages and 161 items in total. So if we wanted to go and edit one of these old posts, we could do that. if you have a lot of posts, like this site has 160, and you wanted to filter, you could do that. So you could go and just view the published ones. So I have published and also ones waiting in draft that I haven't written or haven't completed yet. So I've only completed 105 and I've got 47 left to go. And then you've got, private ones that are not available to the public, and some other sort of cornerstone content or different ways to filter. You could filter by date. So this is published date. So if you wanted to go and look at all the blog posts that you published in August of 2022, you could go and do that. Also, you could go and search by categories here. Categories are a way for you to group particular blog posts that have a similar theme into one category. And so that's useful if you wanted, your readers to be able to read all the posts in a given category. For example, if you wanted to read all of my posts on how to do e-commerce in WordPress, then you would go to the WooCommerce category page, and each category that you create has a page on the front end with which a public user could view. So, that's a nice thing that WordPress has. And so, yeah, if you wanted to go in here and go and get all the posts from one particular category, you could do that, do some editing on those, on that category of posts. You've also got up here some bulk actions. So if you want to select multiple posts to apply an action to, like if you wanted to remove them to the trash or just edit them, you could do that. You could just select those two and then do a bulk edit if you want. Move to the trash, hit apply, that kind of thing. And then you've also got a search up here. If you've got just tons and tons of posts, then sometimes you might just want to do a search. So you could type your particular search in there, and sorry that not sure what happened there. It was a little bug. So you could type WooCommerce, for example, and you could search for all the posts which have WooCommerce either in the title or the text, and then you could try and identify your post that way. Once you're there, you can then go and edit in a couple different ways. You could click Quick Edit, and that means that you would be able to have access to this information. So title, slug, that slug is like this is a slug up here. Slug is a portion of the URL of this particular post. So you could alter that there. You can mess around with the publish date. You could make it private if you want to add a password. You can add particular categories that you've made to include this post, and tags. You could turn comments off. You could turn off pings. You could change the status. If you were working on this in draft mode, you could then publish it, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to update that because I did actually make a little change. And then, maybe I could go down to, I'm going to go to published, and I'm going to show you a published. So let's go to this, this page here. And so this takes us to the edit page or the edit post page. So this is really similar to the page I showed you before. These are all the blocks that I've added to this page when I was creating it. So, here's a heading block. Here's a list block. Here's an image block, so on and so forth. And as I said, a block is just a convenient set of HTML or common HTML that you might be adding to your site or to your page. And yeah, you can just go ahead and add all the blocks that you want. Add a paragraph block, and then start typing content. If you wanted to save that, you could then just hit update there. And then I'm going to view post in another tab by right-clicking on view post and then selecting open a new tab. And then what you'll see is because I added something and then updated it, you're actually going to see that down the bottom of the page. So you'll see then start typing, and then if you want to remove that, you could do so and just hit update, and then that would be removed. So yeah, you could do all sorts of things like that from the post area. The next thing I'll cover is pages, just because it's really similar. If you go to the pages area, you're going to see something very similar to what you just saw. You can add a new page, you can filter up here, or you can do a quick edit on the page, or you can go in to actually to do the full edit or the page edit of the page. I'll go into more detail on these here, but just bear in mind that there are pages and there are posts in WordPress, and pages and posts have some differences, but at this point in time, I just want to show you where to access pages as opposed to posts, and in later videos I'm going to explain more about that. In the meantime, let's go and have a look at the media library. This is where you would be adding or maybe managing any images or videos that you've got in your site. So, you could delete it permanently. You can edit various details of this. So you could add a caption, a description if you wanted to, alternate text. You can change the name of it. You can do all this stuff, right? So I'm just going to hit update, even though I didn't make any changes. It's okay. So just remember that any images or videos that you need to edit will be here. And then the next thing that I'm going to show you is appearance. And appearance is really important because a lot of the times we're going to be either managing or maybe installing a new theme. And as I mentioned before, a theme is controlling the aesthetic of the site. So you could add a new theme here, or you could edit an existing theme here. Really, there's quite a lot to themes, but let's not cover most of it now. For now, I just want you to understand that under the Appearance tab, you can add or remove themes from the Theme tab. Often these days, there is a Customize tab as well. And this is where you could add any specific customizations that the theme developer has allowed you to change. So you'll only be able to change things that the theme developer has allowed you to change. So whatever you're seeing here on this list will differ for you. But these days, it's very common to see this. So I wouldn't be surprised if you had some significant amount of settings there. So for example, you could change the font size. You could change the typography on the actual site itself. You could change the typography for specific headings, that kind of thing. The thing that you need to remember for now is just that this is a place for you to customize your theme. And so I'm just going to say okay to that because I want to go back. The other thing probably to note, there's a few different things here, but most commonly you'd probably want to look at the menus. So the menu is, you can see here these menu items, and this is a place where you can manage menus. If you want to know what a menu is this. So in almost every WordPress site, you'll see up the top here that there is a menu, and this menu obviously helps people navigate your website. So to go to different pages on your site and just sort of look through all the content that you've got. This this menu can be edited from this area here. So if you note that these menu items, WordPress 101, Hosting 101, these are actually the menu items that you see here, the exact ones. So for example, if you wanted to add or remove one of these, to remove one, you could just click remove like so. To add one, you could go to this left-hand column. And if you wanted to, these are the different things that you could add. So you could add like a category as a link. So if you wanted to add Bluehost as a link, you could do that. And then down the bottom here, you would see Bluehost pop up. And then from there, you would just hit save in order to actually view that. And then over here, you should see Bluehost as an option in the menu. And so when you click that, it's actually going to show you all the posts which are categorized with the Bluehost category. So that's a useful way if you wanted, just your users to be able to view all the posts in one category. And you can do that with anything. So if you've created a page and you want to add it to the menu, then you can click it here and then add it to the menu, then save, and then people will be able to see it on the front end. Do the same thing with posts. Same thing with custom links. If you wanted to create your own custom link, you could do so. Just show you what this looks like. So I'm going to add that to the menu. Scroll down and you'll see test link, and then I'm going to save, and then I'm going to go back here and refresh, and you'll see that this is now a link to Google. Okay, so yeah, you can see how menus work. It's also possible to have multiple menus. So if you look up the top here, I'm in the main navigation or the primary navigation. And on my particular website with my particular theme, I've only got one menu, which is here. But some themes have multiple menus. So if you're editing, say you had a menu that was in the footer, sometimes there'd be like a menu down here maybe. You might have footer menu up here or something like that. So just realize that this is the main takeaway here, is that this is the place where you manage menus from. The next, there's a few things here that I'm not going to cover, like widgets and background and stuff like that. But go through the ones that I'm not covering and just see what you can do there. Like widgets is actually sort of an often used kind of feature of WordPress, and that's where you can add sort of blocks, like I showed you blocks earlier. So you can add particular sort of functionalities here. So for example, I've got an About Us section that I put in my website, which is shown here on every page and post. And so, you could add, so that's a widget that just comprises like a set of text and then a set of social share icons. And both of these things are both blocks, Gutenberg blocks, which you can add very easily. So you could select here, add a block, and then hit save, and then that would show up underneath this area here. It's also possible to edit widgets based on your theme. Your theme will allow you to have different kinds of widgets, different kinds of widgets in different kinds of places. So for example, if you wanted to add something in the footer here, I've got an about link in my footer. So if I scroll down here, there's an about link here, and then an editorial policy here. Ignore these because I'm logged in, so you're going to see this stuff just because you're logged in. But a user who's not logged in, like a general public user, would just see about an editorial policy. And so I've done that by adding a couple of links here in the widget area. So just be aware that widgets can also add things to your front end for your users to view. Go through these. If you ever wanted to edit files in your theme, then you can do so here. I'm going to cover how to do this in a future video, but just be aware that there is a place for you to edit files in your theme here, just in case you need it. For now, let's move on to another area which you're going to want to know about, which is plugins. And you're going to spend probably a significant amount of time in here. Plugins are the way that you add new functionality to your website. So these are all the lists. This is a list of all the plugins that I have at the moment. And for example, this one allows me to sort of do various things related to speed up my website so that people have a fast loading page. This one allows me to back up my WordPress database and files just in case I ever get hacked, or if I somehow, my server company somehow deletes my website, something super random like that. That doesn't happen very often, but yeah, the point is that I have a plugin here to do backups. And so a lot of the times there's thousands and thousands of different plugins that you could use to do certain things. So for example, you could get a security plugin to help you block bots from your site, or you could get an e-commerce plugin to allow you to sell products from your site. Any functionality that you want to add to your website can be done with a plugin. So this is the area with which you can manage existing plugins. So you could, for example, you could deactivate this one so that it's not working on the site, and then you could delete it. Sometimes there's a delete button. If it's already deactivated, then you'll be able to delete it. Like I could delete this one now if I wanted. But yeah, this is where you would add new plugins and also search. This is the add new page, so you can actually come up here and search for something. What did I search last? I searched WooCommerce last. So you could search for the WooCommerce plugin by going here and doing this. Then you could hit install, and it will install that plugin for you so that you get the functionality with which this plugin allows, which is selling products online. And then you could activate it. And then lo and behold, what will happen is that you will once this is done, there we go, you will now see a WooCommerce tab over here on your left. So whenever you install a new plugin, or actually not 100% of the time, but generally speaking, if you install a new plugin, you'll see a menu item in this left-hand menu for that particular plugin, where you can do things and change settings in relation to that particular plugin. So there you go. I just added e-commerce functionality to my website, but I don't want to do that. That was just a demonstration. So I'm going to actually deactivate that, which means that it's no longer an active plugin on the site. So none of its features take hold. And then I'm actually going to delete it. And then it's going to make sure that it asks before I do that, and then it's gone, and yeah, all done. So yeah, plugins. We're going to look at plugins in more detail in the future. I've got information about, recommended plugins and that. So we'll come back to that. But for now, this is the area where you would manage any plugins, adding them, deleting them. There's also a plugin file editor, but generally speaking, you don't need to use that. That's for advanced users. And actually, even advanced users, that's not the way to do it. That's best practice. So just stay away from that probably. Users, if you ever needed to add a new user, you could do that here. If you needed to change the login credentials for a user, like changing passwords or anything like that, you could do that from there. Although there's multiple ways to do that. A user in WordPress is someone who is allowed to log in and access this dashboard. So if you create a new user for someone by hitting add new, and then you fill out all the information and click add new user, an email will be sent to that person at the email with which you specify here, and then that user would also be able to log in, and we covered logins in a previous video, would also be able to log into this screen and do similar things to what I'm showing you now. So if you ever need to do that, you can do that from there. There's different ways to control what sort of functionality that they have as well. So, maybe you don't want them to be an admin level user. Instead, you want them to have less functionality. Like maybe you don't want them to install plugins, but you want them to be able to edit posts, then that's possible. So yeah, that area is there. And then there's a couple more things to tick off. You'll see here that there's like I mentioned earlier, there's particular sub items here for plugins that I've already had installed. So if I ever wanted to do some sort of setting change or something like that, or do some sort of use some of the tools that they provide, then I could go and click on that particular plugin here, and it would take me to a page specific for that plugin, and then I could do certain things, right? So I can go to the tools area of WordPress, and I can do certain activities and tasks, or I could view information here or what have you. So yeah, just be aware of that. You'll get a sub item there for any or for most of the plugins that you have, not all. Some plugins will add functionality here in the tools or settings tab. And so tools and settings is a good place to look if you want to do sort of something specific with a plugin. For example, one of my plugins adds this child themes tab to the tools tab, where I can then go and create child themes. And child themes is a topic I don't want to touch on too much now, but basically it's a best practice way to edit your theme over and above what's in the customize area, which I showed you earlier. So yeah, that's just a way of saying that you can do certain functionality from here, and sometimes a plugin will add functionality to either the tools or can sometimes be the settings tab as well. For example, another plugin which I use for compression, image compression, adds a similar dashboard to the settings tab this time. So I can go and do specific things there in relation to image compression. And then also WordPress itself will have specific functionality here. So basically you just need to be aware that sometimes you might need to go into tools and settings in order to do some sort of specific task. And yeah, that is always accessible from the tools and settings tab here in the left-hand menu. That's kind of about it. There's a few other things I haven't really touched on here, but go through and have a play around with what's here. Yours will probably be a little bit different than mine based on your plugins. So yeah, have a look at that. The other thing is that if you wanted to go and log out, you could go up here and just click log out, and that would log you out of the CMS, which means that you would no longer have access to this. And if you wanted to have access, you would have to log in again. So yeah, every now and then that's useful. However, you do not really need to do that very often, but just in case, it is up there on the top right. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you. Catch you in the next one.